So I'm going to go over some movements today on performance cues to help you improve your lifts in the gym, but also outside of the gym in your everyday life. Because if you are struggling with different movements and form, it's going to help you not only in your everyday life, but also in the gym when you are actually under load. So everything starts with your feet. How everything in your body is connected, how your feet positioning is going to affect your hips, your pelvic tilt, your shoulders, everything. So everything starts with the feet, and we want to create the most stable foundation that we can, a strong base. And that is going to start with being able to spread out your toes and create force on all aspects of your foot. So big toe, outside of your foot, and the heel. In order to do this, it's really important that you don't wear shoes, because a lot of shoes can hinder the space that your foot moves. So a lot of shoes have a narrow toe base, and we want to be able to spread our toes out. A lot of shoes have a lot of cushioning, which is great. However, it makes for a lazy foot because our foot doesn't have to work at all when it has a lot of cushion under it. So we want to work on creating strong feet to create that stable base in all of our lifts, because it's really important, not just in squatting, but in deadlifts, in hip thrusts, in overhead press, and a lot of movements. So in order to do so, you want to be able to spread your toes out like you spread your fingers. Of course, they're not going to go as far. There are things that you can buy to help spread your toes out if it's something that you really need to work on, but just spread your toes out and make as wide of a base as you can. So 40% pressure on your big toe, 40% pressure on your heel, and 20% pressure on the outside of the foot. That's going to give a strong, stable base. When you do movements, you want to externally rotate your femurs and your knees so you're not coming in and having that knock knee effect, which also is because of weak feet and turning in, your feet turning in, so it makes your knees knock in. If we can have strong, stable feet and creating a strong base, your knees are not going to cave in like that. So strong, steady base, your knees are going to come over your toes, your second and third toe, or be in line with your second and third toe. And you're also going to fire your glutes, which means just squeeze your glutes right now and relax, and squeeze them and relax. Focus on what? Squeezing, squeeze your glutes while not arching your hips forward. So just squeezing my glutes here. I'm not arching my back at all and squeezing them. I'm not tucking them under and squeezing them. I'm standing in a neutral position and squeezing my glutes. I will give you some exercises to do to learn how to engage and fire your glutes correctly. But when you fire your glutes and externally rotate your femur and knees by torquing your feet, you're gonna have a great starting position. So torquing your feet means kind of bring your heels into each other and rotate them out. That's putting pressure on your toe and your heel and the outside of your foot, but externally rotating that is going to give you that strong base where your knees come out and don't knock in. Your feet stay stable and out and don't come in. So that's the strong foundation that we really want to work on. The next part of it is finding that neutral pelvis. So there's the anterior pelvic tilt, which is really popular because everybody likes to stick their butt out to try and make it look bigger. And then there's the posterior pelvic tilt, which is kind of like slumped down, and where your pelvis is tilted under. So posterior and anterior. We want to find that in between neutral pelvis. So a good way to do this, and I'm going to give you a few other exercises in a different video, but is putting your hand right on your hip bone and just practice arching back and forth. Pretend like you have a glass of water here on your hand and you don't want that glass of water to spill or tip over. So a neutral pelvis, it's going to be straight. if you start to arch your back to create that anterior pelvic tilt, that hand is dipping down there for that cup of water is going to spill down. See that? Neutral, anterior. Same thing for posterior pelvic tilt, which I have a harder time doing. But if you kind of tuck your pelvis and kind of just slump, it's going to tip that hand backwards. And that's not what we want either. That's not a neutral pelvis. If we come back up to neutral, and you'll notice I keep doing this, I'm also pinning my ribs at the same time to engage my core. So that's what leads into next, is pinning your ribs. So your abs attach to the lower part of your ribs, and a good way to know that if you are actually pinning your ribs down and engaging your core is if it's relaxed or if your ribs are flared, you can stick your fingers underneath your rib cage. If they are pinned, you're not going to be able to, because watch. So flared ribs, anterior pelvic tilt, there's an arch there, but if I bring it to neutral and I pin my ribs, I can't stick my fingers under there. My entire core, which is a 360-degree unit, is engaged. It's all tucked in, it's engaged, and it's tight. The one thing that I don't want to see when you pin your ribs is that you arch forward. That's not pinning your ribs, that's just arching your back, which we're so used to being in that position because we're on a keyboard, looking at a phone, looking at screens, all that. So you still want your shoulders down and back, and I'll show you packing your shoulders is the next thing. But stand straight out, shoulders down and back away from your ears, and pin your ribs. So the next thing is packing your shoulders. This creates shoulder stability. And I know a lot of people have shoulder issues, but it helps create that shoulder stability that we want. So scooping your pinkies is a really easy exercise that you can do to help learn how to pack your shoulders, engage your lats, engage your scapula. So you're gonna start, so an anatomical position is here. You're gonna bring your hands out and you're gonna scoop your pinky up. So start here and scoop the pinky up to the sky. And you're engaging, put your other hand right here and feel almost the lat area. It's your serratus anterior, but I want you to put your hand right there to feel that muscle right here moving. So you're scooping, scooping your pinky is gonna help you learn how to engage that muscle. I need a drink of water. We wanna keep our shoulders away from your ears because we're so used to being up here. When we're stressed, when we're hunched over, typing on something, our shoulders are used to being up at our ears. We want them down and back. So scooping the pinkies. Which is gonna help you learn how to pack your shoulders. So once you can engage this muscle, and we're used to being hunched over like this, we're gonna be able to bring our shoulder back and down and pack them back and down, which creates that strong, stable shoulder base. The next thing is tucking your chin and keeping that neutral spine going from your lower spine to your upper C-spine. So pretend like you have a string hanging from the ceiling that goes down and just creates that straight line in your body. Because a lot of times we're like this, but we want to just bring it back so your ears are right over your shoulders. And it doesn't mean like this. It doesn't mean back like this. It just means bringing it back just a tad. And yes, it may create a double chin, and that's okay. So just bringing your ears over your shoulders and creating a neutral spine and a straight line in your entire body from your heels to your ears. Basically your ears should line up with your heels and just go straight down. I know we don't walk around like that all the time, just in this anatomically correct position with everything in line, but focusing on doing that in all movements before you start any lifts is going to help you a lot with each lift. So the next video, I'm going to go into some exercises to help you work on those different things separately.